Ah, it's good to be back. Happy Halloween. Let's do a dinosaur movie. Dinosaurus, yep, that's the title, complete with exclamation point, was an independently produced color monster movie made in 1960 by maverick indie producer legend Jack H. Harris, a second-generation son of Polish-Jewish immigrants from Philadelphia who'd worked his way up from vaudeville child performer to publicist to distributor and producer and ultimately planted his flag as a force to be reckoned with in Hollywood as the man behind the out-of-nowhere surprise 1957 cultural phenomenon The Blob, and thus sort of the discovery of soon-to-be superstar Steve McQueen in the main character role. An eye for talent and an affinity for gently offbeat but appealing genre fare would continue to be Harris' trademark throughout his career, since he'd go on to put his name behind previous Schlocktober alumni Equinox, which launched the careers of multiple special effects legends, John Carpenter and Dan O'Bannon's Dark Star, enough said, and even John Landis' debut feature Schlock. So I guess the legacy on that one might be a little debatable at this point. Anyway, Harris did quite a few different movies in a few different genres over his lifetime, but he's best remembered for his late 50s, early 60s sci-fi movies, which makes for an interesting pop culture time capsule because they're very much of their time, but also very different from other films of their type from the same era, or at least of any one type. They feel very typical and familiar, but not all from the same place, and Dinosaurus in particular feels like a hodgepodge of early 60s entertainment options. It has the plot and characters you'd expect from a black and white drive-in feature.
Well, what do you think, Bart?
Well, thank goodness he's not alive.
Say that again.
But it's filmed in vibrant color and thus resembles less a horror movie and, given the genre elements, nothing so much as a bizarrely dark live-action Walt Disney feature of the same time.
What in the world are you doing now?
I'm going down to Davy Jones' locker for my mother's portable icebox, in which I had stashed all sorts of goodies for you guys to eat.
Betty, wait, the water's not safe.
Ain't love wonderful?
What's happening?
Well, I just dove in for a swim.
That's dangerous. There's still debris churning around down there.
Yeah. Ain't love strange?
The title and staging clearly demonstrate that it knows its bread is buttered on the kiddie matinee side in terms of audience, but it also wants to entertain grown-ups, so there's uncomfortable comedy about the lead female negotiating her captivity with this caveman.
Now, nice caveman. You just sit there and I'll go fix things in the kitchen.
Oh yeah, there's also a caveman in this. I should probably do the plot. Okay, so Dinosaurus takes place on an unnamed Caribbean island where the unnamed locals are thrilled by the presence of American workmen from an unnamed construction company building a modern-style shipping harbor on their coast, because it's 1960, and that means colonialism is blue-collar and benevolent.
See, very good. Soon big boats will land in our harbor. Then much happiness.
The only guy who doesn't like the Americans is our villain for the piece, Hacker, the island manager who knows the arrival of bigger businesses to the island will interfere with his previously unquestioned petty tyranny.
Come another step closer, boss man, or I'll...
You what?
I'll slash you to ribbons. Somebody bandage him up.
Anyway, the blasting for the harbor unearths a freezing cold underground river and the bodies of two perfectly preserved, frozen, solid dinosaurs, a Brontosaurus, which amusingly was the correct name for that when they made this, then the wrong name for a while, then the right name again because paleontology is interesting, and a T-Rex.
Is he alive, Senor Bart?
No, he's not alive.
Are you sure?
Yes, I'm sure.
Then why are his eyes open?
Well, he just slept with them open, that's all.
Yeah, that's how that works, sure. If nothing else, Dinosaurus is efficient as hell about getting us to this point. This is basically the entire conversation about what to do about the dinosaurs immediately after they found out that there were dinosaurs.
Million-year-old dinosaurs.
The same, Bart. I don't know what else they could be, but I'll tell you one thing. One look at them and you'll never forget them.
You see?
This ought to be worth a fortune.
We must have blasted through the rock that entombed them. Some compressed gas caused the freezing, I guess.
As island manager, I demand you bring those things up. Oh, tread lightly, Hacker. You don't demand anything around here today. Is the governor still in Washington?
So far as I know, he is. And that leaves me in complete charge of this island.
Well, we'll send him a wire and have him contact the Smithsonian. He'll send paleontologists down here right away. We'll bring the critters up and put them on the beach. You think the big crane will handle them?
I think so.
All right, get her set up and I'll be with you in a minute.
Oh, also, Hacker finds a frozen caveman and decides to keep it for himself so he can sell it on his own, and then everyone decides that it's cool to just leave the frozen monsters on the beat for the night so that they can go get dinner.
O'Leary, I got a job for you tonight. Babysitting.
With whores, children?
Those dinosaurs over there.
Oh, saints preserve us. Then they're really there. Ah, thank the good Lord. I've been seeing them all afternoon and was afraid to tell anyone for fear it was the DTs.
It's nice that they spread some of the casual racism around to the white guys, too. Like I said, this is not a movie that wastes time getting to the point. The lightning wakes up the dinosaurs and the caveman, and we've got a people stuck on the island with monsters movie you'd expect, where the caveman gets into weird hijinks, the workmen and the islanders head for an abandoned fortress to defend themselves from the dinosaurs, and the main characters get wrapped up looking for Julio, an irritatingly precocious, constantly imperiled, dinosaur-obsessed little kid who Hacker is the guardian to for some reason.
There he is. Now get the kid out of the way.
No! No, Chipman! It's not right to kill! You are friendly. We are going to be friends. You and me. I know you don't know which way to run. And I wish I could tell you. But you see, I'm just a boy and I'm lost.
The plot of such a film is, of course, perfunctory. We're here to see monster action, and Dinosaurus delivers the requisite kitschy but colorful fight scenes. At least one bit that Jurassic Park seems to have referenced. And it's big, probably the reason we made the movie showpiece, a battle between the T-Rex and the hero driving heavy machinery that some have suggested may have inspired the finale of Aliens. Dinosaurus is a movie that a lot of the monster movie-obsessed baby boomer and Gen X fandom had a lot of fond memories of. Generally until they rewatched the whole thing on video and later realized there's not a lot of meat on its bones until the dinosaur sequences themselves, which are definitely charming after a fashion, unless you have a real thing for the unique real world beginning to peek through the 50s facade feel of early 60s kitsch movies. It's oddly underseen today, though, and worth seeking out for the completist, plus kids seem to dig it at any era.
You're in charge. I got an idea.
Hey, wait a minute!
And while this may seem a bit conventional for a Schlocktober film, don't you worry, there's 5 Thursdays this month. It's gonna get weirder. Alright, so here's one of those entries that's at once so difficult to explain in and of itself and also relatively obscure enough, in this hemisphere anyway, that my Schlocktober job is pretty much done by skipping to the fun parts and hitting play. which means I get to take a minute up front to talk some shop. So I try to watch as many different kinds of movies from as many different cultures from all over the world in as many different eras as possible. I cast a wide net, very wide net. I see movies from all over North and South India, Pakistan, Iranian films, Brazil, Egypt, Mexico, Cuba, pre- and post-revolutionary, Soviet Russia, modern Russia, both Koreas, including the stuff Kim Jong orders up, movies from all over Eastern Europe, South America, unlicensed Ugandan Terminator movie, seen it. Unlicensed Mortal Kombat movie from Ghana, seen it.
Obey my instructions.
Pretty good, too. But if you've probably noticed, Schlocktober tends to land on American films, English-language films, and foreign films of the sort that frequently got play in Western genre cinema for the most part. Japanese, Chinese, Italian here and there. I've shown a few Mexican and Indonesian movies, so why not show a full variety of what I've collected? A few reasons, but the main one is that because the show is humorous, I don't want to be telling jokes without proper context, and I'm not totally comfortable that I know enough about every culture I see films from that I don't want to be doing jokes from a place of ignorance or insensitivity when I can avoid it. What I mean is, it's one thing to do, ha, that's funny because it's weird, and jokes like that when I recognize something is genuinely odd. It's another to be doing, ha, that's funny because it's weird when actually it's a common or important aspect of someone's culture I simply don't recognize, and then I'm, coming off like a dumbass or, more importantly, insulting people or whole cultures. And I don't want to do that. This is a happy sub-series. So basically, Schlocktober gets more worldly as I do.
Do you know the importance of good books and how they can benefit you?
Now, case in point, this week's movie, while released in the West in 1983, dubbed into English, sort of, as War of the Wizards, is actually a 1978 film from Taiwan called Phoenix. For historical context, for my primarily, I still think, English-speaking Western viewers, Taiwan is an island state in Southeast Asia, and since 1949 Chinese Civil War has been the seat of power for the self-declared Kuomintang Republic of China government in exile that was ousted by the current mainland government. The People's Republic, which claims the island as part of itself, does not recognize Taiwan's government as existing, basically, and often avoids conducting various relationships with nations that do. On the entertainment side, what that's meant is that Taiwan has seen its national cinema evolve in unusual ways. But in the 80s, Taiwan was very into, however briefly, cranking out movies like Phoenix, aka War of the Wizards, i.e. big budget for the time and place, fantasy, action, romance, magical monster movie fairy tale spectacles, grounded in national folklore and Chinese mythology that kinda have to be seen to be believed, but then not understood because it's kind of hard to find dubbed or even subtitled versions of these or much writing on them for context. But this one somehow, for some reason, got released in English in the 80s, a few years after it was made. Lucky us. And I mean that, this is a fun one.
Don't worry. You will find out.
Okay, so with the preface that I am not an expert on Taiwanese literature or traditional folklore specifically, so if this story does have a singular source, by all means correct me, the plot of this appears to be a loose combination of the Chinese fairy tale The Magic Pot and the better-known folk legend The White Snake, along with other fixtures of Taoist and Buddhist mythos and elements you might recognize from Journey into the West. It's about a slacker bookworm fisherman named Tai in an unspecified ancient Taiwanese river village who happens upon a magical golden bowl that can conjure treasure out of nothing. Which he immediately uses to become a big-shot rich guy and impress his idiot friends as ancient China's version of that guy from Entourage.
I could buy this restaurant, this whole place, with a snap of my finger. Fella. Right. Buy it. Buy it up. Sit down. How you buy this place? You're a very rich fella. Yeah.
Sadly, being in a Chinese fantasy movie means you haven't seen any, and Tai is surprised when word of a clueless moron having an infinite money machine immediately summons a succession of nicknamed kung fu supercriminals.
Okay, pal. I've heard you have a rare...
Wait a second.
So you are... Deadly chopstick. Money is my game. You just think about this. You know I can nail your hide to the wall with these deadly chopsticks. But I would probably die. Yes, but if you want to live...
This is legitimately funny.
His chopsticks are too thick.
And appropriately well-timed and self-aware.
Oh! Oh!
All right. All these weapons are quite deadly. But I, Killer Palm Force, can kill without a trace.
Is this movie actually good?
I can see that you think Palm Force is deadly.
No, it's not. But this part is fun.
Wait, 2 heroes. Wait, please.
Can't you tell the difference between hero and heroine?
Okay, so Tai gets saved by 2 smoking hot ninjas, but not ninjas because this isn't Japan's sisters, who also showed up out of nowhere and immediately agree to be his live-in bodyguards, which is not suspicious at all because, again, Tai is an idiot, because it also takes him like a day to fall for this.
A rich man should be married. What do you think of my sister, Violet?
We depend on each other. She can't be left alone. Do you understand?
Though he does call one hell of a bluff.
Say, you don't have to worry. Why, the 3 of us can...
You were saying you would prefer to marry both of us?
Wait, please.
Violet, if it doesn't bother you, it doesn't bother me. I feel very good about his proposal.
Game recognized game, Tai. But on the wedding day, 2 Taoist priests attempt to stop the wedding using anti-evil counterspell, claiming that the sisters are not what they seem. But then Tai is all like, well, on the one hand, actual working light side magic is zapping them away from the holy temple right in front of my eyes. That seems like a bad sign. But on the other hand, wedding night sex with hot ninja sisters.
I have to risk it all.
They're safe.
Logical.
But okay, so long story short, the sisters are bad guys, henchwomen of a yet unseen arch-villainess whom we're now hearing about for the first time, who's dispatched them to get the magic bowl and the Taoist priest, who based on their costuming and abilities may or may not have been intended to be specific demigods or representational figures of the yin and yang concepts themselves, are trying to stop them. The effects used to reveal this are not great in the only available VHS transfers, but I think the girls are meant to be fox spirits, as their mistress appears and identifies herself as Flower Fox.
Would like to find Flower Fox. This time you won't get away from us.
That's Betty Pai Di, by the way, also known as Betty Ting. She was a big deal actress all over China in the 70s. Tragically, her whole career and persona were very much overshadowed by having been Bruce Lee's mistress, and whose apartment Lee had in fact died in, leading her to be the focus of grotesque conspiracy theories and media hounding for many years after that. Very sad. Anyway, the girls decided that Tai is nice because he didn't let the Tao guys hurt them, and they no longer want to be evil. Sure. So Flower Fox takes them back to her villain lair to be guarded by guest Western actor Richard Kiel, which I guess explains the English release even though he never speaks, and appears to just be playing Jaws again, but if he forgot whether he was going to a costume party as Aladdin or Shrek. And Tai gets rescued by the Phoenix, which, yes, people actually from or aware of East Asian folklore, that's obviously supposed to be Feng Huang, the great bird of Chinese mythology, a composite of pheasant, duck, peacock, crane, parrot, and swallow. I didn't do the translation, which deposits him on top of the Fairy Mountain, where he meets an old man who agrees to teach him how to defeat Flower Fox because reasons. Given the name Fairy Mountain in the translation, I'm given to think this is meant to be the Kunlun Mountains, bordering the gardens of Xuanpu Fairylands, or Heavens, which possibly makes this old man the supreme deity, so yeah. Anyway, Flower Fox is gonna kill everyone.
Take a look inside your vessel.
You drowned me, old toad. You did us a favor.
Why am I rooting for you again? You were only sympathetic when you were a simp and pathetic. Now I guess you're a Jedi and you're just a dick. Anyway, Tai gets a magic sword and it's time to fight the bad guys and save the world. Oh yeah, great, but once he loses even half a heart piece, it won't do that anymore. Nah, just kidding, it's actually solar powered. Which means Richard Kiel gains the advantage in the very next scene by the brilliant strategy of fighting indoors. okay, that was kind of cool. And likewise, this whole final duplicate fight versus Flower Fox.
Doesn't matter to me. I will be the world's ruler.
I mean, it's completely stupid looking, but that must have taken forever to figure out without digital effects tools. Respect. And so the day is saved, and Ty learns a lesson?
Sacred ones, please wait! Violet, wait! Stop! Stop! Don't go! Sacred ones, please wait! We're on our way to heaven. Come along! I'm coming with you! You gain tremendous knowledge and great skillful powers! Be satisfied!
As I said, there's very little information out there about what this or other 80s Taiwanese sword and sorcery movies were, or the purpose behind them, other than to make money, or their production history, or even what audiences thought about them at the time, at least in English or published on the English language internet. It was a brief and not well documented rush of production, that much is known. But it did happen, and this proves it. Here's something people with lives have never had to argue about. When or what was the first gore movie made? It's actually kind of hard to say because movies were gory for about as long as they were the movies. The point of the earliest motion pictures was pure spectacle, and what's more spectacular than sex and violence is a lot easier to fake. Remember, the original Shakespeare productions may not have had sets, elaborate props, or actresses, but they did have leftover blood and animal parts from the local butcher to throw around and simulate gore. The early blockbuster epics that built Hollywood as we know it as its own individual filmmaking entity were so often historical epics or biblical narratives precisely because those genres allowed spectacle specialists like D.W. Griffith and Cecil B. DeMille to pack their movies with displays of opulent wealth, huge battle scenes, orgies both literal and figurative of debauchery and graphic violence, while having the ready-made response to the would-be morality police of, hey, we're just depicting what the books say happened. You might even say it's educational. But then the Hays Code about graphic sex and violence came in and spoiled the party for a couple decades, so spectacle-style bloodshed retreated largely to the sidelines, even in nations without a code for the most part. See, the other taboo about on-screen violence was a somewhat real concern in some quarters, that just as preventing actors from actually engaging in real sex acts was thought to help prevent exploitation, especially of actresses, by unscrupulous producers, that people might go too far for the art and actually hurt someone on screen. And before you laugh at that, remember, in those old Robin Hood movies, when people got shot with arrows, the preferred way of doing that was to put armor and padding on the stuntmen and shoot them with actual arrows. And hell, more recently, there are a lot of not that long ago killer animal and jungle cannibal movies that people have mentioned for Schlocktober that are never going to be on the show because they were created using real stage-for-the-camera live animal violence that I'm just not going to show here. Anyway, gore movies started to creep back into the Hollywood mainstream when Hitchcock did Psycho, which had on-screen blood and a corpse and was really nasty for the time, but the dam really broke in the US side when some of the low-end indie people making what were then called the nudie movies, which was the campy transitional genre in between the roughies or stag films of the 50s and pre-war era and outright pornography, decided, you know, we've probably filmed every kind of breasts from every kind of angle, people might be getting bored, maybe we should throw some red paint around, call it blood, and now we're making horror movies. Herschel Gordon Lewis' Blood Feast from 1963 is generally considered the first of these gore films, and Lewis himself the godfather of gore. But if you follow this stuff, it's likely you've heard of him and those. Our subject for today came out 1 year later, is a touch more obscure but has its own not insignificant place in the history of gore cinema, B-movies, and, well, you'll see.
You're heading right out the window.
Hey!
You better give that to me, Fred.
Okay, you gotta admit, as cold opens go, someone jumps off a boat and melts inexplicably in the middle of the ocean is pretty damn different for 1964. But things get pretty quickly more familiar in a your great-grandma's daily soap operas kind of way, which is actually where they got most of these actors, as we get to the main characters and the story, in which square-jawed, grimly taciturn, no-nonsense, all-American tough guy pilot for hire Grant Murdoch.
Now, wait a minute, lady. If this is some process service gag just to make me admit that I'm Grant Murdoch, you're gonna wish you hadn't pulled it.
Total sploosh.
Actually, yeah, gotta give him the sploosh.
And whatever my equivalent of sploosh is, which I guess is just sploosh. Only with semen.
Is hired to fly obnoxious over-the-hill actress and rampaging alcoholic Laura Winters and her overworked assistant from New York to Cape Cod, despite an incoming storm. He's reluctant, she's insistent, he could really use the money, so guess what happened? But it turns out they aren't alone on wherever this small uncharted rock that's definitely not just the coast of Long Island is supposed to be. There's also literally the last thing you want to find after crash landing on any island in any black and white movie, a German mad scientist.
I'm very sorry if I frightened you. This equipment must make me look like one of those creatures from a horror film.
This is actor Martin Koslick, by the way, and if he seems familiar, it's probably because you've seen him many times before doing this same kind of role. Koslick was a German-born character actor who'd been a vocal anti-Nazi activist prior to World War II who managed to escape to the United States. After the war, while many German actors resented constantly being offered roles as the Nazi bad guy, Koslick considered it something of a moral obligation to portray the Nazis as evil bastards as often as possible, so he pretty much took every role like that he could get his hands on. He even played Joseph Goebbels 5 different movies.
I should have recognized you, but you see, I have so little time for motion pictures.
Skip it, Professor. I'm not big on marine biology either.
Now, here he's playing a German-American scientist named Bartel who'd been drafted as a spy to infiltrate a Nazi bioweapon research during the war and is now on this island because, well, there's something in the water.
What a shame. The poor woman never had the chance.
What caused it?
Sharks, I guess.
Okay, so what's going on?
I told you there was something fantastic going on out here.
Scientists certainly do not claim to know everything, only quacks do. But what you are about to do is extremely dangerous.
How do you know?
Oh, I would guess that these fish have been destroyed by some macroscopic parasite. There's a possibility the same parasite could be transferred to your body if you should touch them.
Yep, that's what's going on here. How cheap is the flesh eaters? The flesh eaters themselves are microorganisms, a cloud of water-dwelling, invisible to the human eye creatures represented on screen by bare minimum optical effects, throwing some dry ice and bloody props in the water and having the actors scream very, very loud. Although at least one of the low-tech effects used to visualize this is nothing if not extremely unique looking.
I need bandages, strips of cloth, anything!
How'd they do that? It's a really old analog rotoscoping trick. They poked or burned holes into specific points on each frame of the original raw film of the scene so that when the subsequent prints are run through the projector, the full pure light from the projector bulb pierces right through clear celluloid. Effective, huh? It also helped make the good home video copies of this difficult to make for a while because you have to transfer it in a specific way to recreate the effect, and it's not like a lot of people were screaming out for this movie. In any case, the flesh eaters are of course the Nazi experiment Bartel was infiltrating. Now they're loose in the ocean, and he's got a big array of mad science stuff on the island, supposedly used to track and try to find a way to destroy them. Oh, and he's also evil, crazy, and wants to reclaim and weaponize them himself, and he's scheming to kill everybody, but you already figured that out. Oh, and since we're a short one won't be missed person for a proper body count, an annoying beatnik shows up.
Hey, I think you all the loving. You are really with it. I mean, you know the truth when it comes sailing in. Hey! No!
Listen, you fool, you're in danger! Danger!
Man, you are so right. We're all in grave danger. Ah! It's the geek! The geek! Get away from me! Get away! I told them. told them that love was the only weapon, but they wouldn't listen.
He doesn't last long.
Pretty kooky idea, huh?
Yes, very kooky. And now we drink.
There's nothing inside me! He's getting into my house!
Listen to those screams. They're eating him alive.
Also, the Flesh Eaters kill a random boat guy, and Bartel kills the actress because bad guy. So Bartel's theory is that electricity will stun the Flesh Eaters, and he can harvest them for his own purposes. Turns out, he's wrong. Like, super wrong. Instead, electricity makes them Voltron together into one really big Flesh Eater. Fortunately, the actress was only mostly dead, comes back swinging for Bartel, and instead inadvertently discovers the monster's real weakness.
Die first! You want to eat? Here!
Blood. They only eat flesh, but they are deathly allergic to blood, which is why their killings leave so much of it behind. So naturally, the way to beat them is to give Bartel a taste of his own medicine. Wait for the ones in the ocean to go supersized, and then go at them with a giant-ass needle full of hemoglobin to the, I guess, face? Okay, so this thing was directed and produced by Jack Curtis and his wife Tenny Curtis, in part via her having won a bunch of money on a TV game show. Curtis was primarily a voiceover actor who worked on the English dubbing for a ton of early anime series. He was also the cinematographer using a pseudonym for union purposes. It was carefully storyboarded by screenwriter, comic book legend Arnold Drake, the creator of Doom Patrol and co-creator of Deadman and the original Guardians of the Galaxy. Flesh Eater's most graphic scene, a Nazi experimentation flashback, was cut from most prints for featuring mild nudity. The film would probably have remained pretty obscure after that, if not for a quirk of history. Its title, still being copyrighted and trademarked 3 years later, is the reason a young George A. Romero opted to change the title of his in-development black and white gore movie project from The Flesh Eaters to Night of the Living Dead. And Schlocktober continues, this week with a movie about a crazy guy named Jack.
Are you talking about me? Because I'm Jack. Hi.
Oh, hey, Jack. Wow, welcome to the Escapist. Hey, good to see you. No, we weren't actually talking about you. This is about Jack Frost, the Snowman film.
Oh, the one with Michael Keaton. Yeah. Oh, I loved Batman.
No, the other one, though a lot of people do get those confused because they came out around the same time, caused a lot of confusion at video stores back in the day. This is the horror film with the lenticular video cover. It had Scott McDonald and Christopher Alpert.
Oh, sure. Are you talking about Batman Forever?
Yeah, Jack, how did you actually call in here? Are you here to promote perhaps your new show, now on The Escapist? We're all very excited about it. Or are you just here?
Chris O'Donnell in him. I like Chris O'Donnell. He was in the Three Musketeers. He's not a good actor.
Uh-huh. Okay. Well, good luck with whatever you've got going on. I'm just gonna go over here and tell people about the Snowman. Good luck, Jack. Good to see you, buddy. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, this past year has brought a bunch of nostalgia in some quarters for the lost age of video rental stores, much of it centered around the now distant decline of Blockbuster as memorialized by stories of the official last Blockbuster on Earth, and my own brother Chris Chipman's Talkbuster podcast. Now, one thing that the end of video stores has obviously brought about is the end of the specific connotation that a film going direct-to-video used to carry, since now the streaming scene is where a lot of first-run indie and art house scene not only starts but remains and thrives. But once upon a time, DTV was all but guaranteed to deliver you something cheap, not very good, but maybe unique and bizarre enough to stand out from the pack, often literally through the use of elaborate decorative packaging to stick out on shelves. 1997's Jack Frost was one of the last hurrahs for that kind of novelty, memorably employing a lenticular hologram cover to let everyone know that yes, this really was a horror movie about a killer monster, Snowman. And while anyone who happened to glance at the back of the box would have their suspicions that the actual film's monster would be nowhere near as impressive, how could you not at least give this a look to see what the hell they were thinking?
I'm warning you!
Gosh, I only asked you for a smoke.
Written and directed as an independent feature by Michael Cooney, who later went on to pen the classy early 2000s ensemble slasher movie Identity, the original angle for Jack Frost was supposedly much more classy, old-school, minimalist, quasi-serious affair, still inspired around a haunted snowman, but with a gimmick more similar to Doctor Who's Weeping Angel monsters, i.e. you'd see a snowman outside, you don't remember building the snowman, you look away, then when you look back, oh, now the snowman's closer to your window somehow. Creepy idea, but apparently one that proved difficult to execute on a low budget and pull off decent atmosphere, especially since, though they supposedly chose to film during snowy season in order to save money on set dressing, it kept failing to snow. So, like many industrious horror filmmakers beforehand, the makers of Jack Frost evidently decided to lean into their limitations and just go the self-aware, bad-on-purpose route.
Who are you? World's most pissed off snow cone. No!
Established with an amusingly creepy, macabre opening credit sequence in which a voiceover fills us in on the backstory of our villain of the title, a notorious cannibal serial killer recently captured after a years-long 38-victim murder spree now being transferred on death row.
In fact, right at this very moment, Jack is being taken to his place of execution. His story should end at midnight, but the fun's just about to begin.
But there's an accident with a truck full of experimental chemicals, and, well, you figure out what happens.
Do this the easy way, or we could... This is gonna hurt.
Oh, and also this happens to occur just outside the small town of Snowman, really, which happens to be where Jack Frost was captured by the local sheriff, played by Christopher Alpert. Did he swear revenge? Of course he did. What's sort of fun is that apart from the about-to-take-shape snowman business, the setup for this otherwise is actually pretty cool killer-on-the-loose scenario. Jack, as a human, really was a super-efficient master psychopath who didn't really make mistakes, and was getting away with his killings until he got grabbed at a random traffic stop by chance by this otherwise ordinarily nobody-special small-town cop who was just in the right place at the right time. So even take out the snowman thing, and it's still basically a movie about the Joker, basically, coming to kill Sheriff Andy.
I heard about Jack Frost. End of an era. End of a nightmare.
I'll find a way!
Sam, you okay?
Oh, yeah.
I mean, that's pretty cool, but the killer snowman is the pitch, and this is indeed our main plot point. The chemical spill has turned Jack Frost into a being of living snow. He's constituted himself into a snowman in order to stalk around the town, hunting down the sheriff, while knocking off the locals in winter and or Christmas-themed ways.
I didn't do it.
Holy moly, right? Killed Billy! Isn't this Jake Metzner's old scarf?
Marla, don't touch that.
What's the problem, Sam? It's just a scarf.
Mother of God.
Nah, Finch couldn't make it.
the most famous of which involves melting down into water in order to attack a soon-to-be famous and then not famous again American Pie actress Shannon Elizabeth in the bathtub. You will note that in this scene, Jack's carrot is conspicuously missing from his nose, which is unpleasant and brought up in the credits in case you missed it. Though this sequence is pretty much what gave Jack Frost its second wind infamy as a bad movie night staple when Elizabeth briefly blew up as the one who was topless in American Pie. Also, if you're wondering, wait, so Jack can change back and forth from snow or ice to water and steam, which he can.
I'll find a way!
Come back. All right, stand clear.
Damn it, it's not working!
Why does he bother constantly remaining a snowman, which is like the least efficient way to move around possible?
Oh, shit.
Blow me.
You're kind of overthinking the Monster Snowman movie. Eventually, the sheriff realizes what's going on and that Jack has to be stopped, along with an FBI agent and a scheming scientist who it turns out was behind the mystery chemical that caused the transformation, who naturally wants Jack to be taken alive so he can be studied.
It was meant to be next-level genetic research. To ensure the survival of our race through a global holocaust, I created an acid that would bond a human chromosome helix with an inert material so that we could be resurrected in our future. But something happened in the accident. The snow didn't just store Jack Frost's DNA,
It's taken on his personality.
Exactly. You know what that means?
It means he's killing my friends.
No, Sheriff. It means that the soul exists. And it's not just some esoteric spiritual entity or even a vague electrical force. The soul is a chemical.
Which is exactly as dumb as it is when it's played as a plot point in other more serious movies, but I'm glad for it because it gives us this scene which makes the entire movie.
Please! We know it's you, Jack.
Humbug!
Wait! I can help you. Maybe turn you back.
But I'm having so much fun just the way I am!
Wait! Then tell me what it's like. To have breached death, the dream of every man on Earth. You're immortal. How does that feel?
Oh, it feels...
Which is almost as good as how they eventually managed to discover Jack's actual kryptonite.
Come on! I think your engine's flooded! Oh! What about the premium, baby? Come on!
He's burning. Oatmeal is making him burn. Honey, what did you put in those oats?
Sorry.
It's a good thing that you did.
I didn't want you to get cold.
Honey, what did you put in the oats?
Antifreeze.
No, really. That's how they end this.
I want you to get the antifreeze. Okay. Put it in the truck. Right. I want you to be back here in 5 minutes. 5 minutes, Paul.
Yeah, so Jack Frost in 1997 was a fun throwback to the glory days of tongue-in-cheek, direct-to-video B-horror movies, even as it's mostly a by-the-numbers affair built around a single gimmicky hook and carried by the clear sense of handmade, we made a movie because we wanted to make a movie enthusiasm. But in terms of getting noticed, apart from the eye-catching cover and obvious this can't be a real movie premise, it ended up becoming one of the last real phenomenons of the pre-Sharknado era thanks to a set of lucky breaks. Its arrival coincided with the internet bad movie review websites popping up to fill the void during the initial absence of Mystery Science Theater 3000, and this became the movie everyone had to review. and then subsequently a family-friendly talking snowman movie starring Michael Keaton with the same title was released to theaters and then to video, causing an amusing several months of hilarious confusion for video store customers that became kind of a meme before memes was a thing. It actually did well enough to merit a sequel, which was also a bit of fun, and maybe we'll talk about some other time, and was going to get a third installment, which was rumored to feature a Godzilla-sized Jack Frost absorbing a building, but was likely derailed by the unfortunate passing of recurring star Christopher Alport, who played the sheriff and was perhaps better known for his one-off role as Pete Campbell's father on Mad Men. Alport was tragically killed in a freak 2008 avalanche at the Mountain High ski resort in California. Very sad, good actor. Jack Frost would fade back to relative obscurity in the 21st century dawned, and even cheaper movies generally needed to look more polished than it did to get attention, but it garnered new fans in recent years and earned a packed Blu-ray special edition from the specialty retailer Vinegar Syndrome last year, worth seeking out. Alright, next Thursday, of course, is Halloween, and one more movie to close out the year. What'll it be? Tune in and see.
I don't think he's a talented actor. I think he looks pretty. I think I like looking at him as an actor. But I don't want to hear him talk or emote. He could just be in a scene. Maybe he could be like the smug guy that doesn't talk. Maybe a background character. Just be there and be Chris O'Donnell. I don't want to listen to him. What?
Hang around the internet long enough and you're likely to hear the phrase Sturgeon's Law, a somewhat pessimistic axiom holding that, and I quote, 90% of everything is crap. It's a pretty good saying, one of my favorites, but fewer and fewer people as time goes on seem to know the history behind it, namely that Sturgeon's Law was originally called Sturgeon's Revelation, and that the Sturgeon in question was noted science fiction author Theodore Sturgeon, similarly obscured as the context in which he made his so-called revelation, namely as an off-the-cuff, exasperated reply during a debate on the literary merits or lack thereof of the science fiction genre, wherein his opponent, arguing that sci-fi did not overall deserve to be regarded in terms of serious literature, demanded that Sturgeon at least concede that a great majority, at least 90%, of what was then being published under the heading of science fiction was, well, crap. To which Sturgeon is said to have now famously replied, well, 90% of everything is crap.
Well, you're not wrong.
Not well known now by name today, Sturgeon was one of the most prolific sci-fi writers of the immediate post-World War II era, and for a brief period in the 1950s, the most frequently anthologized writer in the English language. Viewed as a core foundational influence on more famous peers like Harlan Ellison, Ray Bradbury, Samuel R. Delany, among others, and perhaps most infamously, the inspiration for Kurt Vonnegut's recurring author character Kilgore Trout, today he's most often cited for his contributions as a writer for the original Star Trek series, where he's credited with first introducing Pon farr, the Vulcan hand sign, and the phrase live long and prosper, among others, across the original series and tie-in novelizations. They weren't all winners, though. Sturgeon also wrote the 1944 short story that served as the basis for today's feature, Killdozer, which is famous for being a movie about a possessed bulldozer called Killdozer and absolutely nothing else.
Okay, sweetheart. Destroy!
I really cannot stress that point enough. Killdozer is an infamously bad movie, even in the context of other infamously bad made-for-television 1970s horror films, but whereas most of those tend to be bad in some oddly memorable way, overacted, budgeted way below ambition, stylistically bizarre, some unusual person is in the cast, Killdozer is a unique artifact simply as one of the most boring films one can possibly imagine having to watch, to the point that it's almost entertaining because it's not entertaining. Almost.
What do you think about building a signal farm? Maybe an airplane or a fishing boat might...
Sturgeon's original story, also adapted more faithfully to a Marvel Comics version in 1974, the same year as the movie, involved a group of construction workers building an airstrip on a small island who accidentally break the seal of a temple that's actually an ancient alien artifact releasing an energy-based entity that was part of a long-ago conflict that fought using powerful war machines. Said entity's function was to take over the enemy machines and turn them against their users, so it possesses the workers' bulldozer and sets about trying to kill them all because that's its programming. It's not really one of Sturgeon's best stories, but it is a pretty solid example of how to flesh out a basic idea like that into a full story. Complex background and origin for the big crazy thing happening, multiple characters to flesh out while they're figuring out what to do and not get killed, lots of details like what people call the bulldozer, and so on and so forth. The TV movie doesn't actually do any of those things. In this version, the setup is that a meteor of unknown origins crashes on the island. The bulldozer bumps into it, gets taken over by something. And becomes the Killdozer. Everybody run away from the Killdozer. Robert Urich, Carl Betts, Neville Brand, and Clint Walker are the main actors. Killdozer itself is played by a Caterpillar D9, if anyone was wondering. And because bulldozers aren't really all that cinematic on their own, especially if you've only got Movie of the Week money to spend, nothing happening ensues. Now, I'm not even kidding. This is most of Killdozer.
Well, Chubb's got an idea. We ambush that dozer, run his truck into it.
And kapow! Fire won't stop steel.
It'll take out the electrical systems and the rubber.
Hey, that's beautiful.
I got a feeling we're going about this wrong.
There's a good spot down the road about a half a mile. Let's get down there and set it up.
Nothing happening.
Listen. Listen, you guys. We gotta do something. I mean, something's wrong. Machines just don't run by themselves.
Nothing happening. Still, somehow, not much happening. This is about as close to action as this gets, so enjoy this part.
Nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. Nothing's happening. Nothing's happening.
Electricity.
Brilliant.
I'm serious. Electrocution. We shoot juice into that big dozer. We got that generator.
Looks damaged.
Maybe, maybe not. We need a conductor of some kind.
You're spinning your wheels, Kelly.
No, I'm not. It'll work.
It's over. A lot of people in the audience look pissed.
I didn't even start out wanting to do that joke, guys. I scheduled this because, hey, I've never done Killdozer on this before, but it's been a while since I've watched it, and yeah, there's just nothing going on here, is there? It's kind of amazing. No attempt to make the bulldozer scary or invested with some kind of personality. No interesting death scenes, given that it's a TV movie. Inertly directed. The characters aren't memorable. I severely doubt that anyone would even remember the title that much, except that an alt-rock band named themselves Killdozer at some point. You pretty much just end up staring at this like, why did they make this? Who was it for? And why did they think even they wanted to see it? So, in conclusion, as this year's Schlocktober comes to an unusual close, for the first time on All Hallows Eve itself, please keep in mind, however your Halloween actually goes, it could be worse. You could be watching Killdozer.
Do you believe that thing? What's it waiting for?
What's its hurry?